I'm currently editing the video that you're about to watch, and I realized that there were two things I didn't necessarily get to explain all the way or get to say, mostly because I did this without a script, so I didn't necessarily say everything in the exact order that I had wanted to say it, but I wanted to tell these to you now. So number one is that this is just how I do things. It's not in any way the right way, or the way that everyone does it, or necessarily the way that anyone does it. It's kind of a self-taught method that I sort of strapped together through years of trial and error, and some of it might be really inefficient, who knows. It's just the way that I've always known to do it, and you're more than welcome to try and copy it or just take elements of it, but you don't necessarily have to do it my way, and don't think that I'm saying you're wrong if you don't do things this way. The other thing is that this isn't necessarily a video on why I choose certain songs to go with other songs, or why I play some songs earlier in the set versus later in the set, and things like that. That's more of a set psychology thing, which I'm happy to do a video on if you want to hear more about it. But there are intentional reasons that I play some songs earlier and some later, and in what order. This is more a video about how I get songs from Beatport and SoundCloud into Rekordbox, how I organize them, and how I sort of build playlists that people want to listen to. So, enjoy. This video is going to be a little different for a few reasons. One being it's mostly screen focused, so I will not be looking at you most of the time, and two, because I haven't written a script, I'm just going to kind of do it. So, this video is about how I prepare my sets and sort of where I go from start to finish, the complete process of getting ready to play a show. So there are two main types of sets that you can play. You can either play a headlining set, is what I call it, but it could be any set where you play what you want and you don't have to cater to any specific sound. And then there's a support set, where your job is to help the progression of the night from opening to whoever is headlining or whatever the end goal is at the end of the night. So I will sort of be going down both paths and showing you the differences that I do for each of those. So step one is to get some new music. You kind of want something new every time you play, just to keep it fresh, but also because who doesn't like new music? So one way I do that is I go to Beatport, and generally when I have songs that I know I want to get, instead of buying them every time, I will throw them into what Beatport calls the hold bin. So in here we have a bin of a bunch of stuff that I have decided I wanted to buy, and you can just, bam, move it to your cart. I've also got these. I'm going to throw these in the cart as well. I've got some old Cookie Monster in that. Throw everything in the cart, and it'll tell you, hey, this is how much your cart costs. We're going to quickly buy these, and you can buy them in whatever format you like. I prefer WAV for this stuff, but you can buy them however you like. So we're going to quickly buy all these and then jump into the system. So the next step for me is to check all of my files in a software called Spec, and I talked about this a little bit in my video about audio compression and ripping songs. So if you want to know more about it, head over there. I'll drop a link to it as well. It's free. But just making sure that everything has the high frequency content that it needs, and then we can move them over onto my other hard drive and throw them in Rekordbox. Okay, so now that we're in Rekordbox, obviously everything's kind of a mess. So the first thing I like to do is, while Rekordbox is scanning all of these and trying to figure out what BPM they are, just fixing the tags. Obviously this is not how I want that to look in the final. So I'll go over here. If I can type properly. Can't type and speak at the same time apparently. And I'll fix the artist, I'll fix the title, I'll take final off the back of it, and now that's how I want it to look in the future. So next step is to quickly go through and do that for all the new songs. Alright, so I've gotten things kind of tagged up now. The next step for me is to listen to everything and sort of see if anything jumps out at me. So let's say, hypothetically, I'm preparing for 2 sets. I will make 2 playlists here, and call one headline, and I will call one, say, Ray Volpe. Say I'm opening for Ray Volpe, I'm also doing a headliner set, and so I'm just preparing for them both at the same time. So I will go through and, flip that around, and just see if anything jumps out at me that fits either of those. So for my headlining set, I usually want to put forward some idea of music that I really like, new stuff, usually some underground stuff that I think people haven't heard, and originals as well. And that for support sets, I'm thinking about what the headliner plays, what the direct support plays if I'm not direct support and there's someone after me, and how I can sort of lead into that and fit that vibe, but with a little bit less energy, so that they can come in, the atmosphere is already set for that style of music, and they can deliver the best of the best at a 10. So my job as a support in that case is to set the stage at like anywhere between a 5 and an 8 in that same realm, so that they can come in and then top it. So first thing is we listen to some music. Obviously the grids are off, but I'm going to flip through some of this new stuff and see if any of it lands in either of those bins for me. Okay, here's a good example. First song. This remix of Drum in Time by Rebel Scum up in Seattle is good energy level wise. It's not too hard, but it's still got that buzzy sort of electro bass sound to it. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the Ray Volpe set. And there it is. And then we will continue. Ooh, another point while I'm doing this, just for future sets, I have playlists set up for a few different things here, just in case. So, for example, I have a playlist called Dig, which is a bunch of deep house. I've got Octane, which is a bunch of really fast drum and bass and like hard stuff. 3D is a bunch of really deep stuff. So if I find a tune, I can go, hey, I don't have a set that goes into right now, but there it is for later. Then later when I come up and I go, oh, I've been booked for this set, they want me to play a bunch of really fast stuff, I can jump into this playlist and immediately go, there's 52 tracks that I can do for that show, and I can pick through and decide which ones I want to use. Okay, so I've gone through, I've grabbed a few tracks for each playlist out of the new music that I just got. I've also got these playlists here that I've set up earlier, just based on, like it says, songs I want to play live, songs I want in a mix. So here's a bunch of songs that I haven't really gotten a chance to play out, or I haven't played out in a while that I just feel like playing again. So I'll flip through this, and same thing, I'll just see if anything jumps out at me that I think would be a good fit for this specific set. Alright, so I've flipped through those, I've grabbed some more tunes. My next step is to go through, where are they? Old sets here. So every time I do a set and I make a playlist for it, I save that instead of deleting it, because that's a huge waste of your time and energy. You've put so much energy into making a good set for a certain situation, and then if you find yourself in that situation again, or a similar one, you have to start from ground zero if you delete. So I saved all of my sets from like mid-2016. I went to DSO and I did some campground stuff, and so here's a bunch of the songs that I played at our campground party in Paradiso in 2016. So I have all of these sets, and let's say I know that a bunch of the stuff I played at the Trampa show, I want to go for that same kind of energy, that same vibe for this headlining set. So I can go in here, and here are a bunch of options and stuff that is, I know I like it, it's already got all of the hot cues in it, because that's a whole other thing we'll get to later. And I can flip through this and go, oh, I do like that Sam Lamar tune, let's play that one again. And oh yeah, Invicto, we're playing that too. I can grab all of these and very quickly build up my playlists and flip through all of these previous shows. After that, the final step for me is the originals. So I've got a few edits that I've made and all of the originals that I've made in folders, so that I can quickly go, okay, which ones do I want to play? Flip through and go, I want that one for the Ray Volpe set, and I want that one for the Ray Volpe set, and I want that one for the headliner set. And you'll find that I usually don't put songs in both playlists. It depends on how close they are and how often you mix and stuff. I generally prefer to keep my sets entirely different, so that people can go to both and get a different experience, because if they're the same, then people are likely to only go to one. I like to encourage people to try and come out to both and deliver something unique each time. So I usually don't put songs in both playlists or multiple if I'm doing shows next to each other, but you can. So we'll grab a bunch of originals, we'll grab maybe a few edits, and we'll throw those in the playlists, and I will try and fill these out. So instead of preparing a whole new set, I just grabbed one that I did a few months ago. So this is a set I did for a show called My Bloody Valentine, and for every set I will throw a double character on it. So you'll notice up here I've got a double line there, double equals here, double slash. This is just to help me differentiate for stuff that I know I want to do double drops. So for this one, I'll just pick a double question mark, and then if I find any songs I want to do a double drop, I know that I can just throw double question mark and then the number of the double on there, and that will remind me that those need to stay together. So the first thing I'll do is I'll get all these and just throw them in a folder, put them on my phone, and then during commutes or anything, if I'm going on a run or anything, I will just listen to that folder on shuffle. Get yourself more familiar with the music, get yourself more in tune with the sort of vibe that you're trying to bring to that set, because the more you know, the more familiar you are with the songs, and the more they're in your head, the easier it's going to be for you to easily go, oh, I know I want to do this, and this song flows really well into that one, and you just be more familiar with the music when you're working with it. So I'll throw all those in a folder, I'll put them on shuffle, and just listen to them every day. I'll listen to them for like 3 days. And then when it's time to sit down and actually build the set, I will work like so. So organize by not title or artist, but by the actual number, because these are in no particular order, they're just the order of the title. You can't drag and reorder them. So on CDJs, if you select playlist order default, it will go by these numbers. So for your actual set, set it to this, and that way you can drag these into an order and they'll hold that order. At this point, ideally I've been listening to the music for a few days. I sort of have an idea of where I want to start. But we will start with, let's start with the Leviathans and double it with Urgalurg. I've been doing this one. I really like this one. So for this, I would set it to, in this case, double question mark 1. And I will put that on here as well. And so now I know later if I want to reorganize them or if I want to grab that for something, it'll remind me, hey, you're using that for a double already. If you're moving it, move both of them. Basically, take a look at this one. I will usually throw it into this mode where you can play 2 tracks and do the mix that I plan on doing so that I can hear how it ends. In this case, it ends right here. So at this point I know, okay, I can either fade Urgalurg out and just have Leviathans, in which case I'm in the key of 7A, or I can fade Leviathans out and be in the key of 8A. So I can go either way with this. I know the BPM, and I know that I have a very short amount of time to mix into something else before it drops again. So at this point, I will scroll through and see if anything looks appealing. Kill Those Speakers is nice. Get 'Em is a good early song. Let's do Get 'Em. This one is really, really big, hits really hard, so that's a really good song to open with. So in that case, I can fade either one out, but let's say, hypothetically, I fade out Leviathans. Then next will be Get 'Em, and I will sort of attempt to do that and just see how I want to envision it. Maybe I'll start it here and sort of get an idea of how I want to lay it out. Okay, that sounds good enough for me. So now we're into Bad Fella. We'll play this. I can do either one drop or both drops. And then what do I want to play next? It's good, but I want to save that. That's in the right key, but it's drum and bass. Basic Shapes is good, and I also know that this is another song that double drops really well. And doubles are something that I do a lot of. You don't necessarily have to do them at all or a lot, but this is just how I think when I'm preparing the set. I'm like, okay, we can go into basic shapes from here, and basic shapes can use this long outro to fit the vocals in the intro, because there's a lot, and then what do I want to double with it? Crunch Bunch might do. So now I've never done this double before. I have to test it and see if it sounds like it would work as a double.
Let's take a look and listen at Solid.
It's okay. It's not awesome. So I'll flip around, and maybe I don't end up doubling anything with it, but... Ooh, Dark Reflection, actually. That might work.
Okay, first, let's take a look and listen at Solid.
Nope, that didn't work at all. But, you know, I'll dig around, I'll try and find a double. Maybe I don't double it with anything. I'll pick the next song that I want to go into. Anti-Human. That's another really good early one. And then Tripolar Dub, make it a little more rhythmy. Sometimes I'll grab a few and put them in an order, and then I'll test it. What I'm basically looking at here is... Oh no, not something. I'm looking at the BPM and the key, and because I know the songs so well, because I've been listening to them for a few days, I'm looking at the sort of vibe that they are in, because some of these songs are a lot more experimental, and some of them are very melodic, and like a lot of them are vocally driven, and then some of them are darker and more mechanical. So I'm kind of trying to build sections here. You don't necessarily want to be bouncing all over the place. It's a little disorienting if you can have about 5-minute sections of this style, at least 5 minutes of this certain style of really dark rhythm per se, and then you open it up and you do something that feels a lot faster and bouncier, and then you go into melodic stuff for a few minutes instead of jumping all over the place. It feels much more natural, and it gives people who like that style a chance to breathe and enjoy it and go song into song into song into song. I really liked that whole section. And then maybe you reach a section that they don't like, and they can go to the bar, go to the bathroom, stop dancing for a minute and take a breather, and then a section comes on that they like again. So again, this is not necessarily a you have to do it this way, but it sort of helps for me to think in that way, to sort of divide the music up into these sections and have the set flow between those instead of between song to song to song. So I'll grab some songs, I'll throw them in a particular order, and I'll also leave some room for freestyling. Oftentimes in sets, like in this, how much stuff do we have in the key of 4A? That's a really common key. We've got, what is that, a bunch of songs. What is that, like 8, 9? 9 songs in the same key. 10. We can throw all of this... Ooh, actually, now that I'm talking, I have an idea. This will probably double with basic shapes.
If you've come, take a look and listen at Brought Friends.
Yeah, that double works. So for that, I will add question mark 2. And now I know not to split those up. Like I was saying before, what was I talking about? The songs in the key of 4A, we've got a bunch of them. So oftentimes I will put 4 of these in a row in the playlist and just assume that I'm not going to play all 4. Maybe I'll play 2 of them, maybe I will play all 4, maybe I'll play all 4 but in a different order than they were listed. That is just about feeling the room. When you're up there and you're playing, especially if you've been playing for a while, you kind of develop a sense of what people like and what people don't like with what you're playing. And maybe you expected the crowd to be really into a certain style or a certain subgenre because the headliner makes some stuff in that subgenre. And, for example, Ray Volpe, he has made some psytrance-esque stuff. So I have played for him before, and I did play some psytrance, and it was a lot harder, faster, really upbeat stuff, but people still weren't responding to it very well, so I skipped 2 other psytrance songs later in the set, because people aren't feeling it. That's a skill that just comes with time and experience of being in front of crowds, but leaving yourself room to freestyle in the set is paramount to delivering a better set more of the time. If you lock your set in and you go, I play this song and then this one and then this one, and you never experiment, you'll end up in a situation someday, no matter how good you are at predicting what people will be into, you will end up in a situation someday where you go to play a set and people just aren't digging what you're playing, and you look down at your playlist and you've got another 20 minutes of this same stuff. And what are you going to do for 20 minutes until it's time to play something else? Well, you don't want to get yourself in that situation. So always over-prepare and leave yourself room to freestyle, because things are never going to be 100% as you expect them. Once we have a full set, I will then go through and make sure that everything is tagged the way that I like it. So I'm pretty excessive with the amount of tags I do. So yeah, here's an original, so it's going to have everything. It's got 8 hot cues and 8 memory cues. This isn't like necessarily a secret, but it is a big part of how I play and perform. So I guess let's go over how I do hot cues and memory cues. The most important thing with hot cues is to remember that a lot of decks only have 3. The CDJ 2000 Mark 1s, 2000 Nexus Mark 1s, a lot of the XDJs, they only have 3 hot cues. Only the newest, the 2000 Nexus Mark 2s, and some of the newer CDJs, the XDJ 1000 Mark 2, and controllers have access to all 8. So oftentimes you will run into a setup where you can only use your first 3 hot cues, A, B, and C. So for that reason, I make A, B, and C the critical ones that I'm most likely to need. And then the other ones are if I have the availability to use them. So for me, A is always right at the beginning of the song. If I need to jump to the beginning of the song really quick, if I'm in the middle of trying to bring a song in really quickly and this song is ending and I just need to jump to something, A. Every song, A is the beginning. B is the breakdown. So right after the first drop, when there's a dip in energy, if there is one, not every song has one, but the dip in energy right after the first drop, that is perfect for me for a few reasons. I actually learned this from James Clark, Mutagen. When I went back-to-back with him once, I saw him do this, and I was blown away. I was like, how did you do that? That was really fast and amazing. And he showed me what he had set up. So if you're playing a drop and you're mixing really quickly, or even, again, you play a drop and people aren't responding to it how you thought they would. For this, the whole drop starts at 53 seconds in and ends at 1:45. So it's almost a minute-long drop. If you play the drop and immediately people are not responding, you can get halfway through the drop, hit B, and skip to the breakdown, skip the second half of the drop. That has gotten me out of a lot of sticky situations. It'll also help you if you're doubling something and the drops are different lengths. You can, when one ends, you can end the other one at the same time. There's a million different things you can do with this. So highly, highly recommend. That was one thing that changed and improved my mixing so much in the past few years, was just this one easy trick. DJs hate him, is throwing a hot cue at the end of your drop and being able to skip to the end of the drop. The third one is C. That's the beginning of the first drop. Easy. Again, just being able to jump there is really convenient. So on any CDJ setup, I should reasonably have access to those 3. I've also got D, which is about 8 bars or 16, depending on how you're counting it, before the drop. It's just the last section of the build-up. I use that a lot, actually, if I have things lined up and then I overestimate how many phrases I have. So say one song is, say I'm layering the build-ups, and then one build-up is longer than the other one. I can jump ahead in that build-up so that they drop at the same time. That one's really useful. And then E, F, and G are not necessarily throwaways, but the way I use them is E is halfway through the first drop, F is the beginning of the second drop, and G is halfway through the second drop. That's nice because I can play, with the way this is set up, I can play the build-up. If I wanted to, I could play most of the intro, skip halfway into the build-up, play the build-up, play the second half of the first drop, then hit another button, play the first half of the second drop, and then hit another button and be at the breakdown. That kind of creativity and flexibility, I almost never have to do that. But the fact that I can while I'm on stage is really, really nice because, like I said, I freestyle a good amount while I'm up there, and I like to have the variability of knowing, ooh, as I'm playing it, I remembered I planned on playing the first drop, but people seemed to really like this style, and that's the same style as the second drop on this song, and I know that because I've been listening to the song nonstop for the past week. So I'm going to play the second drop instead. So I play the build-up, which has the vocals I like, skip to the second drop. Easy. And then H is arguably the most important hot cue for me. It is the end of the song. If there's a loop at the end that slowly fades out, or if there's an impact that fades into nothing, that is where H is. So on this song, it's just a long loop. On Rift, it's just a little impact. On Oracle, it's a long impact down with some noise over it. God, this is such a lifesaver. And this is a technique that I use a lot in sets. I will be, let's say I'm doing Get 'em and I want to get into basic shapes. I want to get into Yasuo and pass out, right? So if I'm here, if I'm at the first drop, the second drop, or the breakdown after the first drop continues to rise back up in energy. It has these bells, and then it comes back up into these big synths. I want to avoid that, and my hands are busy, because I'm setting up this song and the other song that I'm trying to double it with. So at the end of the drop, I will hit H and jump to here, and that way I can take my hands off that deck. I don't have to touch the pause, I don't have to touch the fader to fade it out or filter it out or anything. The song fades itself out at this point. So if I'm here and I'm really busy, I'll just hit H. And now I'm over here. I'm setting up this new song, and I'm setting up the other song that I'm planning to double it with. And I don't have to worry about that deck, and I can come back to it when this is done, and I have more time to handle it. H is a lifesaver. B and H are my two favorite hot cues for those reasons of just where they jump to. Really, really helpful in terms of saving yourself as well if you get into trouble. If you end up messing some stuff up, you can just quickly hit H. It's going to sound clean because it's going to just whoosh out. So once I've gotten the hot cues set up, it's time for memory cues. And memory cues are, if you aren't aware, primary difference between hot and memory cues are that hot cues, you hit it and it's playing at the point that you hit it. Memory cues you can jump to, but they're not playing. When you jump to it, it's paused. So they're more of transport cues. So I use them to transport me to places that I might want to mix in. So here I've got D at 8 bars before the drop, which is the build-up. So I'll put a cue here because I might want to mix in right at the beginning of these synths, which is 16. 24 bars before the drop, if I want to mix in, have this slowly fade in, and then hit those synths. The first drop sort of ends, and there's an immediate another build-up into a second half of the first drop. So maybe I don't even want to play this at all. I just want to mix in right here. So I've got a cue there, and then same thing with the second drop. Those are mostly, in my mind, transport controls, because there's a button right on the CDJs. You can go next, 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 and just jump to wherever I need to be. So instead of scrolling the jog wheel or trying to use the touch strip, if I load up the song and I know I want to play the second drop, I can just hit 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's put me right here. It's put me on beat and on time, and I can just hit play when I need to. So after all of this is set up, I will, usually while I'm doing this, by the way, I'm bouncing songs in and out of the playlist to and updating the playlist that's on my phone. I'll do this over the course of a couple days. Adding songs, I'll go, oh, this is really good, but I don't have a way to get from the key of 6A to 12B because that's the next song I want to play. I can try and look around for a 9A, and hey, there's one, and that fits the kind of style of those songs, so I'll put that there. And then I can look for either a 9B or a 12A. I'm not going to go over how mixing in key works, but say hypothetically I don't find the song that I need, or I want to transition BPMs and I don't find the song that I need. I'll jump back into all these playlists and say, oh, did I miss anything? Was there anything in here that would fit that really well that I could use? And if I find it, great, throw it in there. After I've done this whole thing and I've found that I just don't have a place for 4, I've got the whole set, 75 tunes, and then I've got these 4 and I don't really know where to go with them, I'll go, okay, well, 9A, that's really common, so I'll go and put that next to some other 9As. And again, that's a freestyling thing. Maybe I play it, maybe I don't. Depends on how I'm feeling and how the set's going at that point in time. And then say there's 2 more that I just didn't have space for. Well, I'll just remove them from the playlist and get rid of that. And I'm like, okay, I won't play those songs this set, but I'll put them into songs I want to play live for another set coming up. Or maybe, hey, they don't fit in this one, but they do fit in the headliner set that I'm going to be doing a week later. I will go through them in that playlist so I still get to play them. Juggling these around, eventually you have the whole playlist, and then the most important thing once you've done that, and even once you've exported it to your flash drives, I do 4 flash drives, I highly recommend at least 2, because I've seen people lose them, I've seen them die. I had a situation, that's a long story, never mind, but just carry backups, please. You're meant to be a professional. I know that it's a party scene and a party industry, but you're meant to know what you're doing, and the show must go on, whether you're on stage or not, so please bring backups. But the most important thing, once you have all of this set up and on your flash drives, is to keep listening to the music. I've seen people finish this and then be like, all right, there's my set for the show in a week, and they just have it on their flash drive. You'll forget some stuff that you've been meaning to do. You had a double planned that you forgot, or you knew that this transition worked, but only at this one weird spot, and you had to do it a certain way, and you know you have to use the reverb on the mixer to smooth it out because it sounds too choppy if you don't, and you'll forget that in a week. Don't let that happen. Keep listening to the music. Keep coming back to this and reviewing it and just remembering, okay, so I do that song into that song into that song. Because you want the performance to be the best that you can make it, right? I said that like Picard. You want the performance to be good, and so you need to keep working on it even when you think you're done. I see a lot of people stop. I'm known to add songs to set lists for shows 3 hours before I'm on stage. I'll be here getting ready, I'll be quickly scarfing down food, and someone will send me a demo of something, and I'm like, this is really good, I want to play this tonight. I don't have time to necessarily do all of this to it, but I can at least throw it in there, get it on the flash drive, and then when I'm at the venue, figure something out, find a place that it works to put it. But keep working on your set, because your set's never done. Your set's just ready. Keep digging for more new music that you could put in there. Keep trying different arrangements of stuff, trying different tricks. Find an acapella to put over something. And then, ideally not at the last second, but the day of or the day before, export your stuff to your flash drives. Make sure you eject them properly, and then take them down to the venue, and your set is ready. I definitely feel like I've missed something at some stage of how to make sets or how I make sets, but that's the inevitability of doing a video without a script. It's a lot of rambling, but hopefully you at least learned something about how I have things set up or how you might want to do things differently to prepare for your sets. If you want to know more about mixing in key and what that means and how to do it, or drastic BPM changes or anything, ask me. If it's a small question, I'll probably just answer it right there in the comments. If it's a bigger question, I may make a video about it. But just let me know if there's other stuff you want to know about my process in relation to this or anything else. And stay safe. Okay. That's going to be a long-ass video. Fuck, man.